scary ghost ship sails the world's seas unmanned for decades. The tale of the SS Beit-Shimo is simultaneously heartbreaking and utterly eerie. Initially launched in 1914, the SS Beit-Shimo was a 1,322-ton cargo ship built in Gothenburg, Sweden, and was originally named Unmanned. Its main function was to shuttle goods between Hamburg and Sweden and back again. In 1921, as part of Germany's reparations for shipping losses stemming from World War I, the Unmanned was transferred to the Hudson Bay Company in Great Britain. She was designed and built by the Swedish shipbuilders Lindholmens for a German company based in Hamburg. The vessel had a steel hull 230 feet long, and was powered by a triple expansion steam engine. She was also outfitted with schooner rigging. Soon after, it was renamed the SS Beit-Shimo and shipped to Ardrisson, Scotland for good. Once there, the Beit-Shimo shipped tea, weapons, sugar and tobacco between Scotland and Canada during the summer months. From 1924 to 1931 it shipped fur and pelts around the world. In one fateful trip, however, the ship became trapped in an early season ice pack. The crew members, then stranded and alone, hiked half a mile to Barrow, Alaska, to wait for the ice to break apart. Throughout the month of October and most of November, some men would return to the ship every day to clear away ice from the ship's rudder and other critical piece of equipment. A few short days later, they attempted to sail home, but became trapped again. This time they had to be rescued and airlifted to safety. Several men stayed behind, however, seeking shelter in a nearby town. Their intention was to keep an eye on the Beit-Shimo through winter and sail it back the following summer. On November 24, 1931, the temperature suddenly rose drastically, from -60 degrees Fahrenheit to a flat 0 degrees. During this time an intense blizzard swooped in. Once the storm had passed, the men went outside, only to find that the SS Beit-Shimo was gone. Even though the crew members initially assumed the ship had sunken, an Inuit seal hunter explained to them that the ship broke away from the ice and was last seen floating 45 miles away at sea. Sidney Cornwell, captain of the Beit-Shimo, found the ship a few days later, but after ruling it unworthy of sailing, he unpacked all of their goods and valuables and surrendered the ship to the whims of the sea. Soon after, though, Sidney was proven wrong about the Beit-Shimo. Not only that, but it was done in quite an embarrassing fashion. Just a couple months after he deemed it unfit for sailing, the ship was reportedly seen 250 miles from where he'd originally abandoned it. Over the following year, reports of the SS Beit-Shimo were reported by several sailors from all around the world. Later in 1932 the Hudson Bay Company geared. It was still afloat but deemed it too far away to rescue. Within a year, several different crews had attempted to board the ship, all to no avail. Several years later in 1935 Captain Hugh Paulson attempted to board the ship but was unable due to icy conditions. Nevertheless, the ghostly ship sailed on. Similar reports and sightings of the SS Beit-Shimo continued to pour in over the preceding 38 years, right up until 1962. Then in 1969 the ship was spotted for the last time, floating in Alaska's Chukchi Sea. While the Alaskan government launched a search for the ship either floating or sunk in 2007, it had yet to yield any results. Many times she was boarded by explorers or crews of passing ships, but each time she eluded capture. Once, a group of Alaska natives boarded her and were trapped aboard for 10 days by a freak storm. The SS Beit-Shimo might never be found, but its legacy will live on forever. How wild is it that it sailed for so long seemingly crewless? Nearly 4 decades later, in 2006, the Alaskan government began work on a project to find Beit-Shimo as well as an estimated 4,000 ships that had disappeared along the coast of Alaska. The search yielded nothing. Assuming that the Beit-Shimo had sunk shortly after her last sighting, it still makes her one of the longest sailing ghost ships in the world. ships rarely survive for so long unmanned, especially among the crushing ice packs. It's more than likely that the once unsinkable ghost ship now lies somewhere in the cold, muddy bottom of the Arctic Ocean. We follow along with the story that has been dubbed as one that goes along in that ghost ship category. However, the spirit world doesn't really play into it very much. Instead, what we hear about is something that could be pretty realistic and also pretty mind-blowing all at the same time. You see, as the story goes, the SS Beit Shimo, a 1,322-ton cargo ship launched in 1914, would carry its crew into some pretty intense conditions that would force the ship to be wedged in some bad weather where it would be unable to move, essentially being frozen in place.